Hey there, welcome to the Eurostep, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast, proudly, excitedly, thrilled to be brought to you by GSPN and the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I am Ty Windisch, joined as always by the remarkable, fired up Rohan Katti. Rohan, we are recording. We don't usually do this, listeners know. Some games demand it. Directly after the Bucks withstood the Clippers after the Bucks made a huge comeback, 106-105 in Fiserv. Late night game to accommodate TNT. Oh my goodness, was it worth staying up for? Rohan, A, how's it going? B, what is your excitement level after watching Giannis prove you're just wrong if you're discounting him from MVP conversations?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling absolutely fantastic. It's one of those games where it's a gut-wrenching loss, but it's you feel so happy when it's a win.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's a 1 point deficit, right? I'm not making that up. Yeah.
Yeah, 106-105, yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's like midnight. Give me a break. It's such a small margin of error. You know that Giannis is putting up the second highest scoring game of his career in this game. And you're like, oh my goodness, they've come back from down 21 points in the third quarter. If they lose, it's going to be heartbreaking. But if you win, it's going to be euphoric. Luckily, the Bucks managed to win this game. It is the euphoria. It's the feeling of overwhelming. It's a feeling of you just need Giannis. And you've got a shot against anyone. You've got a shot against anyone because today, this game, for the most part, it was just Giannis.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
He scored over half the points.
He did. Well, it was just Giannis offensively. And I think This was truly, you talk about a playoff atmosphere game. I think this was that. And I think there were, especially in our Discord, certainly on Twitter as well, some extreme Debbie Downer energy when the Bucks went down 20. I wasn't bothered in a big picture sense for a few reasons. One, Bobby Portis remains out. I think this is a bad game for Brook. Brook out of down stock. It's a bad matchup for Brook. Bobby would have helped a lot, and they had to play some minutes without any five, right? Like Giannis and Brook both out. Khris played the five. They had Wes Matthews guarding Ivica Zubac. We'll talk about Wes Matthews. Signature Wes Matthews game in a lot of ways. But they relied on their defense. And I think Jrue Holiday did not celebrate his first All-Star in 10 years. Congrats to Jrue Holiday. Certainly well-deserved. Did not celebrate it with a scoring outburst. But the defense he played on Kawhi Leonard, and I think the whole team played on Kawhi, and also Paul George, was just remarkable. And literally, the Bucks had opportunities to extend their lead late in the fourth. The West wide open elbow three just felt so perfect to bring it out to 4, and it wouldn't end it, but it would, it would really be a nice cushion.
You know what? When that shot was going up, I was like, oh my God, this is game 1 versus Philly. And then he missed. But I was like, in that like half second, I was like, oh my God, it's parallel. It's this again.
And what I mentioned earlier about not being too worried about this game, both for the injuries and Khris on the minutes restriction. Like Khris couldn't close. I mean, they had to close with Ingles instead. Ingles was fine in this game. It wasn't great. He had some big moments. You would rather have Khris out there, clearly, which is a huge deal. He played really well against the Clippers. Like, we continue to get encouraging tape on Khris when he is able to play with the minutes restriction. But the shooting variance in this game was just tough. I mean, we know the Bucks climb up sometimes from deep. They were missing. I mean, Khris had a wide open corner 3 in the first half. That West shot was wide open. Grayson, when he wasn't turning down shots, missed a couple good ones. Did make some as well. It just felt like the Bucks were just getting these looks that just weren't falling. Then on the other end, Norm Powell with somebody in his face. Marcus Morris made a couple with pretty solid defense being played. Obviously, Kawhi and Paul George are going to score. They weren't overwhelming. I believe Giannis handily outscored both of them combined. That's correct. Yeah. They combined for 33. Giannis, I don't know if we said it out right, 54 points, 19 rebounds, 2 assists in this game for him. 21 for 39 from the field.
He outscored Kawhi, Paul George, and Marcus Morris. Shout out Newmark for that.
Yeah, is that their 3 leading scorers?
Yeah. No, Norm Powell.
Oh, yeah, Norm at 26. Okay. But he outscored Norm and any one other Clipper, which is still pretty damn impressive. We'll talk about Giannis more in just a second, but I think it was just like one of those games where the bounces just weren't going. And I think it would have been pretty easy for the Bucks in the second half, like the third quarters when it was the worst, to kind of go, okay, it's not our night. We've seen this happen, right? The Grizzlies game, maybe the low point of the season, when they got just throttled early and they said, whatever, we don't need this one. And they didn't. And I really love that they didn't, both because now we get to do this pod and because we did need a win like this. And we certainly got it tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this is their 6th in a row, and the previous 5 wins have been against teams. We talked about this in our last episode. It's against sort of teams that are not the upper class of competition that you would say. Teams missing players, teams missing talent in general.
Yeah.
But now they face a team in the Clippers who, for like one of the only times this season, are fully healthy, fully available, and you get to see the Bucks go toe to toe with them and say, hey. Like Brian Anderson and Stan Van Gundy, by the way. Can we take a second to? I tweeted this out during the game.
He figured it out.
He went from not even that. I don't care about that. Antetokounmpo, that didn't make a return. He went full from Ivica Zubac is the best Giannis defender I've ever seen in my entire life. To actually, it's a good thing that he fouled out. So now that it's Giannis is getting a different look. The complete heel turn, because he's like, oh yeah, my take's getting roasted because Giannis has 54 points.
The Zubac, every time he gets called for, Zubac should have fouled out in, I think, maybe the first quarter. I mean, the first quarter, Giannis couldn't believe that he wasn't getting some of these calls. And I don't know why this has become a trend that Giannis only gets calls in the second halves now. But it was the last game out, too. It was the same deal. He's getting mauled in the first quarter, and it's not a call. And it's, Giannis is 0 for 7 to start. Yeah, 4 of them were him at the rim, either 2 hands on his back in the post, which if you read the rule book is a foul, or making contact in his drives, not having your feet set, not being vertical. And they just don't call it. And then it's very weird how they do that. Like the same as the 10-second free throw thing. I wish they would just call it the same throughout the games. I think it's very frustrating that it just changes. And you'll see stuff that's less physical than what was a no call in the first quarter will foul out Zubac in the fourth quarter. Not saying he didn't, like when he fouled out, they reviewed it, they challenged it. It was a foul. I mean, he was moving into Giannis. You can't do that, despite what officials allow teams to do for most of the games. But it is pretty ridiculous. But Zubac, it's like, sometimes these players where it's like they kind of come out of nowhere, and NBA nerds kind of like them, and then it just gets carried away. Like these, like Zubac, he's fine. I don't know. He's
good. He's a good defensive. He's like an upper tier He's an upper tier defensive big.
Yeah. But not that upper tier, clearly, based on what we just witnessed. He's very good rebounder.
Yes. It's in terms of like going up against centers. It was it's difficult to see how you can succeed putting centers on Giannis. We've seen this happen. Like teams try to do this time and time again, those teams have seen their centers get absolutely roasted.
I think
like Zubac just did tonight.
I think we can extend it to just players. Like there's just, I mean, Giannis was not bothered by Kawhi in this ballgame. And this felt like kind of like the LeBron game when Giannis, which I've referenced 20 times this year, when Giannis put the crown on and you're like, oh, Giannis is better than LeBron now. And you just knew. That's what, I mean, not that I'm saying I didn't realize Giannis was better than Kawhi at this point, but have we seen them really battle that much since 2019?
Not really, no.
Not that many. I think they beat the hell out of the Clippers with them playing once. Yeah, he just hasn't played that much. But this to me did feel like that moment again where like, oh, just so you know, I'm better than you now. And that's just how it is.
Yes. This was a statement game.
Yeah.
Because you can tell the Clippers took it really seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Like both teams are like, hey, this might be a finals matchup.
Yeah.
And it very well could be. With the way, like, it's leaning like probably unlikely considering what the Clippers look like in the state of the West.
Yeah.
But there's a chance. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. I mean, there's people who still think the Warriors could win the West, which I think is like...
That's cute.
Warriors fans don't think that.
That's really cute. But again, back to my original point. When you've got Giannis, you got a chance. And the Milwaukee Bucks tie They have Giannis Antetokounmpo. No one else does.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
It was a game worth staying up for. At the beginning, when they started to get down, I was like, I'm losing my beauty sleep over this.
You did say
but,
that.
It was well worth it. Well worth it indeed.
Is this game 6 against Phoenix vibes? It's kind of the same game. Not as good for
very
free
different
throw.
Circumstances.
Well, yeah, of course. But in just terms of Giannis 54.
Oh, it felt like that. It felt like that. It felt like Giannis was just going and getting whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
It was, okay, Zubats, you're backing off. Okay, I'm just going to get Stan Van Gundy's favorite phrase, get a head of steam, and then go
I watched the Bally broadcast. I have no regrets.
I should have switched it.
There's no one better. It was Marcus. It was a Marcus game, to be clear.
Oh, it was a Marcus game?
Marcus.
Oh, I thought I saw someone on Twitter saying it was a Steve game.
No, he was on like the table before the thing, right? They had him, and I actually saw that, and I was like, oh, he's probably not on the call. This is money.
Oh, no.
Zora did a thing about housing inequality coming out of a timeout that I think the broadcast should have given more like credence to. They didn't. I think they should have given her a little more space to cook with that. That was very cool as well. I hope they do that all throughout the month and help educate myself and others. Zora did a fantastic job. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great Bally Sports broadcast.
Yes. But Stan Van Gundy's phrase of getting ahead of steam. If Zubats backed off, Giannis was just getting to the rim. If they wanted to, just load up, he was making the right passes and getting the ball back in better spots. He was hitting his jumpers. He was getting to whatever spot he wanted to, and he was making whatever shots he wanted to. It was a peak Giannis game. It's
one of those games where he takes too many threes, but the 2 makes are worth it. I think he was 2 for 8, and it was like, okay. It's like I've said this before. His threes sometimes are just like punts to a certain extent, and with the way the rest of the team was playing offensively, I mean, I think they were probably more efficient than shots taken by the rest of the guys.
It feels like possessions where he's like, man, I'm tired, but it's also like I'm the only one who's got anything going. Let me do something here.
Yeah.
And you know what? He earns those shots.
100%.
100% earns those shots. He could take 50 of those in a game, and I wouldn't be really mad at it.
I like that he's comfortable with them in the big moments, but not the biggest moments.
He recognizes the spot.
Yeah, like he took a couple with like 4 minutes left in the game, and they left him wide open with like 2 minutes or a minute 40 or something, and he kind of acted like he was, and he's like, no, let me do my thing. And then I think that was maybe the play he fouled Zubats out on, and it was like, yeah, I need something a little more reliable here. I don't worry about his shot selection. I give Giannis the benefit of the doubt every time on any matter.
Lifetime benefit of the doubt.
Lifetime. All right, who else should we talk about from this game?
Let's talk about the fresh minted All-Star, Jrue Holiday. Yeah. Once again, like you mentioned, congrats to Jrue Holiday. Well-deserved All-Star. The Bucks do indeed have a second All-Star in this game. Jrue Holiday's first appearance since 2013. Longest gap in NBA history between All-Star appearances. I believe the previous record was like 6 years or something.
Wow.
This is 10. 10 years, 2013. If it was Jrue or if it was Brooke, either of them would have broken it because they were teammates in that All-Star game together. But Jrue gets the nod. It's deserved. The Bucks would not be here without Jrue Holiday. They would not be second in the East without Jrue Holiday. He's been a monster. Good timing on his part, getting those monster performances right before voting, but it's still well-deserved. Finally, Jrue Holiday gets another All-Star appearance. I feel like we've been wanting this for years. Ever since he's been on the Bucks, we've been wanting it. And now he finally, even when he wasn't on the Bucks, I was like, please let Jrue Holiday be an All-Star again. And it finally happens. It's on the Bucks. It's perfect. It's amazing.
It's basically, it's the Conley arc. Conley ended up in that same space, and they gave him one. Although they kind of gave him like you're on the way to the NBA old folks home, but we'll put you in the All-Star game because you're on a good team. I think Drew's was more like the coaches don't care that much. They like defense. They like champions. So they went with Jrue Holiday, which is like totally fair. They also like good teams. And also
take that, Pascal Siakam. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, how did Pascal not make it? He's been really bad for like 2 weeks, and the Raptors have been really bad all year. Why would he make it? And speaking of, thankfully, there was a more egregious pick than Jrue. so that the Harden and Jimmy Butler and everyone fans aren't mad at Jrue. They're mad at DeMar DeRozan on the stinking Bulls, who somehow made it. I don't understand that one either.
In the East, in the West, what about Jaren?
Oh, yeah, Jaren Jackson made it over Anthony Davis.
I think he's played 20 more minutes this season than AD.
I mean, listen, obviously, given what we do, we're not huge AD proponents, but AD is simply much better than Jaren Jackson
He's
Jr.
a monster.
Like, what are we doing?
Like, we're not big fans, but like, there's no denying that AD's a monster.
When he plays, he's very good, which is kind of the same about Jaren Jackson, except just not as good.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
And shout out the Grizzlies, Dylan Brooks just punching Donovan Mitchell's in the Mitchells.
We don't even have time for Grizzlies talk on this pod, but suffice it to say, like, win a meaningful. You beat the Wolves in the playoffs. You beat the Warriors in the play-in when they were like a sad shell of which they are now. And now the Warriors are kicking their ass this regular season. And just win something. Anything meaningful.
Back the talk up even a little bit. Imagine
if the Bucks beat the Pistons, then lost to the Celtics in 19, and the next year Giannis was like, I'm not worried about the East. We'd be like, that's a stupid thing to say. And the Wolves are very much the Pistons of the West. Very much.
Yes.
Okay, back to the game. I want to pair someone else with Jrue. Wes and Jrue, I thought, were kind of the standouts defensively. And we've talked about how Wes's trend line has been going up, which is a good sign. And this game, the shooting abandoned him, which is unfortunate. Took a couple, the first or the second three he missed. He kind of rushed one in the corner, and there was some ire over it. And I think a couple possessions before that in a row, the Bucks kind of just like ping-pong the ball around, and they'd like make a little advantage but not shoot. And I'm willing to guess there was an emphasis from the coaching staff and Bud, like, shoot the damn ball if you're open. And so I gave Wes the benefit on that. He missed some good shots. We know that's going to happen with Wes from time to time. Did get to the free throw line for 4 shots and made 3 of them, which was nice. But his defense,
one of them was very key at the end of the quarter. The third quarter or the second quarter?
It was end of the first half.
Yeah,
he got in for an offensive rebound on a Giannis miss and made one of the free throws. But missed the first one, unfortunately. But it's one of those where you look at the stat sheet and you're like, yeah, he was terrible. You look at the tape and you're like, wow, he was indispensable. Like Jrue and Wes switching. Like I remember at one point, the Clippers, I don't know why they did this. They took like 8 seconds to the shot clock to have Kawhi screen for Paul George. And then the Bucks fought it. They made him wait a while. And then finally the switch happens and it's like Kawhi on Wes and he missed a contested jumper. And I was like, what was your angle there? What did you want to accomplish? I don't understand. There's other players you could try to target. Not many at that point in the game. But I thought Wes was just remarkable. He finds ways to do just enough offensively so that he's not a huge black hole. And defenses have to respect him a bit. And defensively, he's still one of the best Bucks on the team. Still one of the best defenders in the league based on what we've seen. I don't know if it was just knocking the rust off or getting in shape, but he's back, and that's a huge deal.
I think you can't play him too much sort of thing. It's you have to manage his minutes. You can't let him accrue too many because he's in hashtag old at this point.
36, Marcus said, I think, on the broadcast.
Yeah, he's getting up there.
I mean, he looks amazing for that age. I'll tell you what.
He's had a long career, man.
Yes, and the ups and downs too.
I know it's like everyone working his way back after that Achilles tear in Portland.
Yeah,
like, to still be a productive NBA player to this day. All credit to Wes Matthews,
and also the positive locker room energy from Wes and George. Zora reported at one point. This was before George played. He played a little bit in the third quarter. But it was like
braids too,
and the headband, and the whole new. I don't know. George is just like I mess with Lindell Wigginton. I like the vibes.
He's like, am I going to Phoenix? I got to change it up.
Oh well, don't. But Zora reported that he was the one who was like leading the emphasis for the players in the huddle, and I just had to think like George, who doesn't play every night, who hasn't played in a little bit now, is the one like invested in the game. Talking about we need to lock up on defense, not even played in this game yet. And you contrast that to Serge, who is like just gone. And it's like, yeah, I know the guy. I'm glad that is still around the team. And it might be the good move. I'm just can't even get my words straight. I'm so moved by what George Hill did. It might be the good move to trade him for Crowder, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it'll hurt a little bit because he's given his all for the Bucks every time he can. So credit to George Hill.
Yes, absolutely. All credit to George
and
Hill.
Wes, and I think is the same boat.
Yes, but I think Wes has a little more to give as a player than George. But like that doesn't mean that George is not valuable. Like you just mentioned, he is valuable in his role, and it would be sad to see him get traded. But the NBA is a cruel business. George Hill would possibly get traded again. There's the Jae Crowder rumors obviously looming large. Are we just waiting for the Phoenix Suns to get their new ownership in place for it to actually take place?
Yeah.
That will be probably dealt with next week, as the trade deadline is next Thursday, Feb 9. It is something that I did not expect to be waiting on before the season started. Oh my God, are the Bucks going to be waiting on Jae Crowder's trade request? And it's like, are the Bucks the team? They're going to have to be waiting for a new owner to take over. Like it's just all of the NBA bingo cards have lined up for this to happen. But it'd be sad to see George go in a trade. Where are you at with Jae Crowder trades after this game? Because after watching this game, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I could have takeaways going either way on this.
I'm very pro.
You're very pro on this game because my thing is that Jae Crowder, in like his essence, is a defensive wing.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the Bucks' problem today.
I don't know if it entirely wasn't. I think a little bit of it was the Bobby injury. But they didn't have enough big bodies to go small the whole game or even the whole second half. Like Brook had to play a little bit in the second half. He ends up on minus 32 in 23 minutes.
That's impressive.
He was a minus 30 in 18 minutes. Actually, the first half was much worse. But it's just like they could use more options. And I think it's like is he maybe just a bigger version of Wes, who probably is going to give you a little more offensively regularly, but not as good defensively? Yes. I think that is useful, though, because I think there was a point in this game in the third quarter when I was like, okay, the list of guys who can play against this team, the way they hunt mismatches and force you to switch, Giannis, Khris, Jrue, of course, Wes, beyond a doubt. Pat Connaughton, who can play against Pat's strength is he never gets schemed off the floor. Like Pat can always play. Javon, who gave them good minutes. Again, was not a good shooting game, but he had a plus effect on the team. And like maybe Hill. I didn't think Grayson could hang out there, that they hunted him. They found him. Like every Buck on the team, it felt like, was like clamping Paul George. And then he gets on Grayson. He's just like directly at the rim. It was tough. And Brook, it's a bad matchup for Brook. We know what Brook's strengths are. Perimeter switching is not it. And I think having Crowder as another option so that you don't need to be saying, can we get 30 minutes out of Wes in this regular season game? Can Wes average 32 minutes a game in the playoffs? If it's, let's say, forget the Clippers in the finals, Boston is a very similar principle, right, with the two apex wings. And I do think you could use another option, whether injuries, foul trouble, for whatever reason it may be. I think having another guy that you really trust to be out there unlocks a lot. And the Bucks came back in large part because their small, switchy lineups totally took away what the Clippers wanted to do, and they just made it too hard for Kawhi and PG. And I think having more ammo to do that better against Boston is still essential.
Yeah, it's one thing I was thinking about in terms of this is like, how much do you really have to prepare for a team like the Clippers when it's like, are you really going to see the Clippers in the playoffs? They get to the finals, but then it's like you mentioned, Boston is a very similar team in terms of their team building, in terms of their defensive strengths. They're actually like physical makeup.
Yeah,
they're very, very similar teams. It's curious as to why one is successful and one's not. I mean, it's not curious; it's injuries.
Yeah, the guys play on Boston. Yeah. That's the big difference.
It's not very difficult to discern at all.
And also, every Celtics player is like 10 years younger than their Clippers equivalent, which seems to be helping as the years go on.
And maybe like 20 in like Nick Batum's case. But I don't know why I just took a random shot at Nick
Robert
Batum.
Covington was like,
oh my God, he's so cooked.
Giannis spun on him and Roko's feet didn't move before Giannis dunked the ball.
I'm out on him as a buyout candidate.
No, he's not good
I'm
enough.
I'm all the way out. Like, if there's no one else, maybe.
I would legitimately, like, give me Joe Wieskamp. Like, I don't need, there's no point. There's just, I get if you get cooked by Giannis, but with the kind of player Covington is, he should be getting bullied. He should not be getting, like, just beat around him. That's a huge issue. Like, I mean, Giannis is hard to guard for a lot of different reasons for everything he does. But, like, again, if Giannis put him under the basket, I'd go, okay, sure. He didn't move fast enough. Like, he just didn't move at all. It was like Spencer Hawes.
Oh my God.
That's what it reminded me of.
It was not pretty. No. It was not pretty at all. But yeah, it's like you're basically preparing for a team like Boston, and I agree. Jae Crowder would be a good addition for that kind of matchup. But I don't know, if you're losing a guy like George Hill, like you're sad to see him go, but I think it might be worth it.
I think it's worth it, and I don't think at this point they're going to trade Grayson at the deadline. It seems to me like maybe that'll be an off-season thing. Maybe they'll give him the second shot in the playoffs, as many, including yourself, have said he deserves that. He's shown improvements. I don't think this game was positive tape. I think there may just be some limitations that he just can't overcome through sheer work. We'll see. I mean, it's likely that they will see the Celtics at some point, and certainly some other tough physical playoff series before then, if anything. This was not great tape.
Will they?
What?
It's just Boston.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just Boston.
They could have a hard series, I think, but it wouldn't be for the same reasons.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the only reason you get, like, the only reason where it's like, oh my God, we need Jae Crowder as an addition is like for a team like Boston. And to be fair,
I think Brooklyn helps.
I
think Brooklyn he's helpful.
Brooklyn's not strong enough.
You need guys to throw at KD though. I think, and you again, you have to take away I don't know how much the Sixers would do it because they're so different with Embiid in the middle. But I think Brooklyn would probably try and hunt him too. We'll see. But with KD and Kyrie,
fair. But. And again, you should be preparing for a team like Boston because they're your main competition.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can the price being probably less than Grayson in terms of rotation guys means that I think you don't worry about, oh shoot, is it worth getting him if it's only some series? Like, I think yes, anyway, even like just in general because the price is like not the first round pick either, like second round picks and salary, like sure, why not? And B. Yes, for sure, because the one series is the one where you can presume you're not getting to the finals if you don't win that series. So I think you arm up as best you can, and it's a pretty modest price to pay for some real peace of mind. I also wasn't blown away by Ingles in this game, and I kind of have similar concerns with Ingles as I do Grayson. He had some really nice defensive moments. I think whatever reason, like Paul George wants no part of Joe Ingles. Like, absolutely is a weird thing. It dates
goes
back to a series. Yeah. OKC Jazz.
It's the origin of playoff P.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's when it started. Paul George said, "You guys haven't seen playoff P," and then he got cooked by Joe Ingles.
Yeah, that's when I knew Donovan Mitchell was a star because it was like Paul George wasn't there. How good Donovan Mitchell was. Anyway. But I worry a little bit, especially Boston. I'd like to see some full strength games against the Celtics before the playoffs, but I think even he could end up like, we can't play him that much. I think he'll play. I don't know how much. And just having another wing option who you're like, yeah, we can roll him out there. He'll brick 2 threes and then make 4 in the next game. But we know the defense is what the defense is.
Yeah. It's just like, when are those bricks going to happen? Because they're going to happen.
Yeah,
you know it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But
you can't rely on his offense, but
the defense is there. Plus, if you can match him up with Wes Matthews, that's gonna be a good bench defensive combo.
Yeah, I mean, you just have the option to go so many different ways with not even just closing lineups, but like you could if you get Crowder without losing any of these guys we're talking about who contributed a lot tonight, you could just go like, yeah, we're going to play all plus defenders for the whole fourth quarter of every playoff game. And that's a huge deal. Like, that's just a really big deal. And we saw, like, that's exactly how the Bucks won this game, was like leaning on their defense and then saying Giannis will do enough on the other end. And Giannis is that guy. Giannis is him. He can get it done even if there's no shot making around him, if the defense is there. And you'd like to not have to do that too often, but we know they can do that when they have to. We've seen it enough times now.
Yep, I think that's my biggest takeaway from this game is that Giannis just gives you can do anything if Giannis is on your team.
Yeah,
absolutely anything. That's all that matters, is that he is a member of your team, and he is for the Milwaukee Bucks. And as for Jae Crowder, the tea leaves are reading that we think it's going to happen, right?
I think it probably does. I think it was low. It might have been Windhorst. I've been grinding pods lately. They said, whichever one of them said it, the Bucks, they're looking at, like, they're going to get a big wing, more or less. It was like they're Crowder, and it's not just Crowder, like, in case that does fall through or whatever. I think they're going to find someone. I mean, we know Jared Vanderbilt is available. I don't know if the Bucks are going after him. They usually like vets. But I think they're going to come away with someone that they feel good about throwing on those kind of players. So, and I do think, they should try to find a backup big in the buyout market or something too. It's less important when Portis is back, but I do think you get that big wing, and then your lineup options for pretty much any matchup are just like perfect.
Yeah, it's just rounding out the roster.
Yeah.
And if you can't, might as well call up someone, take a chance. Like they did for Ray John Zucker last year.
Yeah. Real quick, I know I said it before, good Khris tape. Like,
good Khris tape. Very good Khris tape. It was a little painful seeing him on the bench, and this is something that I don't think we talked about on the last episode, but this is the first time in a while that we've seen the Bucks actually put a guy on a minutes restriction.
Yeah, a firm one. He only did 20 tonight after 22 the other night, which sucks.
That's not the Bucks MO at all. Yeah. So whatever Khris has been dealing with has been very, very, very serious. So I'm glad that they're easing him back in. And this is the time to do it, like mid-February. I mean, not mid. It's like literally the second day of the month. But, like February.
I thought you meant the month is mid.
I mean, it's like the shortest month.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like the Andrew Snyder of months.
Oh, he stayed up, watched the game, waited on stocks.
I'm sorry, Andrew.
By him too.
I love you, Andrew. I love you, Andrew. I had to do it. I love you, Andrew.
That's brutal.
It's whenever we meet him, it's just gonna be like I'm gonna crouch on purpose so he's taller.
Rohan, you're doubling down. That wasn't actually a nice thing to say.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Okay. Oh.
I hope he asked you how the weather is up there. No tall person wants to hear that.
Oh, man. How about this? I'll buy Andrew's drinks.
I think you want him back over.
Yeah. Okay.
Based on what I know about Andrew, I think...
I'll buy him all the sport wine he wants.
There you go.
Do we have anything else we need to touch on here before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. We may have some bonus pods before the deadline next week. Obviously, if any trades happen, we'll be all over those as well. But exciting game. Glad to pod about it with you. Glad that we just haven't had that many exciting, like true great games like this. Great that it was on TNT. The Bucks won. Giannis made his case, but just fun to cover these again after they don't have anyone and they get killed by Boston and Brooklyn and then they beat the Nuggets and the Pistons. And this was good. I hope we get some more of these before playoffs start.
Yeah, peeling back the curtain a little bit. We were originally going to record anyway, regardless of the game on Friday morning. But we were like, this is too exciting. Yeah. We have to go after the game. And here we are at 12:34.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep. And that's a perfect way to wrap up. Say thank you for listening to this episode of the Eurostep here on Blue Wire and GSPN. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you're listening to this podcast platform of choice, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. Leave a 5-star rating and review, or leave a like on the video.
Or on Repod.
And Repod. Yeah, we didn't even mention Repod. Check out Repod for a great community. It's a good place to get good community going, good conversation going. Make sure you check out Repod. And am I missing anything? All of our links are at gspn.info. Pod Random, and we'll talk to you next time.